A major step forward in hopes of solving cold cases across the country, including here in Texas. U.S. Senator John Cornyn will introduce the Carla Walker Act at Othram in the Woodlands. Othram is the first of its kind lab in the world, purposefully built to identify perpetrators of victims of crime scenes. Kristen Middleman is Chief Development Officer at Othram. She joins us live this morning from the lab where this legislation will be unveiled. Kristen, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, as we know, this is a big deal because the Carla Walker Act will dedicate a portion of federal money to support forensic DNA analysis to solve cold cases previously deemed unsolvable.
Yeah, this is a big day, not only for Othram, but the country in trying to figure out how to solve these cold cases. It's the first time there's going to be infrastructure where law enforcement now will have access to funding to be able to use this new technology. We've shown over the last few years how effective this technology is. We've been able to solve, thousands of cases using this type of DNA testing, forensic grade genome sequencing. And for the first time, there will be funding for law enforcement to use it in all their investigations when there's no lead using traditional DNA analysis. And also on top of that, there will be metrics. We will start to collect metrics on how much money is spent and how many cases are actually being resolved, how quickly, what technologies are being used, and that will allow Congress to create a real plan, a real roadmap for how to solve every cold case, how to work every contemporary case using the most advanced DNA testing as well as traditional forensic testing, so that you can get to that answer sooner, get that perpetrator off the streets before they commit that next crime, before they find their next victim.
I want to go a little deeper into this in just a moment, but first, Kristen, I want to take a moment to talk about Carla Walker, the namesake of this act. For people not familiar with who she is, tell us more about Carla. Carla
Walker was a 17-year-old cheerleader in Fort Worth, Texas. She was someone that the community looked up to. She was in love with the quarterback of their high school. They were both very well liked by everyone in the school. They took care of everyone. They were people that always gave back to the community. And they went to a Valentine's dance together, like I said, in Fort Worth, Texas. And after their Valentine's Day dance, someone opened the car door and took Carla. The last thing she said to Rodney, who was there with her, was, "Go get my dad." Rodney went. He actually went straight to her house, and he was hit over the head with the back of a gun. And as soon as he came to, he went straight to the house to get her family. And what happened is, people thought it was weird that he went to the family's house rather than to law enforcement right away. They thought that it took some time for him to get there. They couldn't find Carla. This was a type of crime that didn't occur in Fort Worth at the time. Carla was found 3 days later in a culvert. She was sexually assaulted and murdered. And everyone in the community was distraught over what had happened to her. Unfortunately, doubt started to fall on Rodney. Rodney spent 46 years. He actually outcast himself to Alaska because he couldn't live in that community anymore. And he felt the burden of guilt for surviving, but also felt the burden of the world thought he had something to do with the person he loved disappearing. I met Jim Walker, who will talk to you shortly. He was only 12 years old the day his sister was taken, and he spent 46 years trying to get answers for his sister. He lived in the same house. In fact, he never moved, hoping that someone would come knock on the door and give him some answers as to what might have happened to his sister that night. He also would go back to the culvert that where the perpetrator left Carla, and hoping that the perpetrator would return so that he could confront him. He became a law enforcement agent trying to solve this case. He fought and fought in every way he could, including being part of TV shows so that he could get funding for advanced DNA testing in his sister's case. That is how the Carla Walker case got solved. They were part of a series called The DNA of Murder. NBC agreed to pay for advanced DNA testing for this case, and we were called in after multiple other attempts and built a profile. It took a few weeks. All that was left was a very small amount of DNA that was found on a bra strap from 46 years ago, like I said, and this technology was able to identify Glenn McCurley. Glenn McCurley lived less than a mile away from this family. They had seen him in the area, and he had gotten away with it. He thought he had gotten away with it. Law enforcement that you'll talk to later today were part of investigating the rest of this crime. They were able to place the gun that hit Rodney over the head with Glenn McCurley. They were able to get other context clues that allowed him to be in the area at the time. And so they got a warrant for his DNA, and it was a match. It was a perfect match to Carla's perpetrator. And so we ended up in court. This was the first case with this type of technology that ended up in court here in Texas. And he was convicted to life in prison for capital murder. Her family was able to face him and get answers. I got to know hundreds of people that knew Carla. They had a celebration of life, and that family was completely changed by the course of this investigation, by being able to face Carla's perpetrator and being able to get answers. They were able to now move on, and they wanted to give back by helping other families get those same answers. They believe in the technology as much as we do. They're 100% advocates, and they are backing this legislation so that in Carla's name, other people can get justice much sooner than 46 years. They don't have to wait that long to find out what happened to their loved one, and the perpetrator can be caught before he ages out of crime.
Yeah, you know, it's hard not to get emotional when you wrap your mind around what you just said. You know, 46 years, they finally got answers, and the hope is that no family will ever have to wait this long. As you mentioned, this technology is already being used. It's already producing accurate results for cases across the country. The hope is more law enforcement agencies will begin to use this technology with this new act, including right here in Texas. You're solving cases across the country, across the world. But the hope is also for agencies to sign on to this here in Houston.
Absolutely, Zach. And I mean, of course, we would love to make our community safer, our backyard safer here in Texas. I think this is the first step. We have a state senator, someone that was an attorney general, someone that was there as a prosecutor during the beginning of traditional DNA testing and CODIS testing, someone that is in charge of almost numerous bills, but almost all the DNA sex assault backlog bills for the federal government here in the United States. Cornyn has dedicated his entire career, his entire life in being able to help solve cold cases more robustly, help give unidentified people their name back, and he is now taking the lead and saying this technology should be used. This technology is necessary. What we're using up until now is not suffice to solve every case. It's not suffice in every investigation. And so I think that his example is going to go a long way. I also believe that the metrics will prove with numbers to Congress, to these law enforcement agents, how effective this technology truly is. It's the difference between having a case stay on a shelf with a DNA dead end for decades, like you said, the difference between a family like Carla's family not getting those answers and being able to solve that case in a matter of weeks for a few $1,000s. It's incredible how powerful this technology is and how efficient it is. And I think once we actually see those numbers, more people will stop and start using this tool.
Yeah, a lot of hope. Kristen, I have one more question for you before I let you go. Your message this morning to loved ones of victims waiting for answers.
Don't give up hope. Answers are on the way. They're coming. This is the beginning of true infrastructure set by our federal government to help your case. When you're a family member waiting for answers, it can often seem hopeless. And when you're a family member that's lost someone because they're just gone and they haven't been identified, it can seem hopeless. But I do believe that with this technology, it's a matter of time before your case is in our hands or another competent lab's hands, and we can return those answers back to you before law enforcement ends up being able to investigate your case and get an answer, just like they did in Carla's case. And I know Jim is coming on in a few minutes, and he'll discuss what it meant to him. And it's something that I've seen transform people's lives, and I hope we can give it to everyone that has a cold case waiting.
Yeah, it's quite remarkable. Kristen Middleman with Othram, thank you so much for coming on the show this morning. We appreciate your time.